This video is brought to you by Nebula. Today, US President Donald Trump kicks off a trade war. EU leaders meet to discuss defence in Brussels, and Belgium forms a new government. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Monday the 3rd of February 2025. Over the weekend, US President Donald Trump announced trade tariffs against Canada, Mexico and China, and said that tariffs on imports from the EU will definitely happen. From Tuesday, 25% tariffs on all goods imported into the US from Canada and Mexico will apply, as will a 10% tariff on Chinese goods. When the EU will be hit with tariffs isn't yet clear, but Trump said on Sunday that it will be pretty soon. In response, Canada and Mexico have announced retaliatory measures. Canada has imposed tariffs on $106.6 billion worth of American goods, while Mexico has also announced retaliatory tariffs of 25% on US goods. China, meanwhile, is reportedly considering countermeasures, although Trump's tariffs are likely to have a lesser impact on China compared to Mexico and Canada, partly because Biden had already imposed a set of US tariffs on China, but also because businesses were long expecting heavy tariffs on Chinese goods, as Trump had repeatedly promised throughout his 2024 campaign. Anyway, Trump has also threatened tariffs against the EU and UK. The EU last year ran a trade deficit of $213 billion with the US, which Trump described as an atrocity, and wants to impose tariffs on European goods, including pharmaceuticals, cars, and other types of machinery, to redress this balance. The EU says it will act as a collective and, quote, respond firmly if and when Trump's tariffs come in, likely with retaliatory taxes. However, it seems the UK might be able to avoid the trade war. This is because, while Trump claims that both the EU and UK have been, quote, out of line, the US, at least according to US data, runs a $15 billion trade surplus with the UK, making it look more indebted to America. However, we should point out that the UK data doesn't actually line up here, and we'll explain this further in a video on the TLDR UK channel tomorrow. But that doesn't really matter for now, as Trump has said that the UK-US trade situation can be worked out. So, as we mentioned, if you're interested in Trump's tariff wars and what they mean for the countries involved, we've got not one but two full explainers coming out on the TLDR Global and TLDR UK channels tomorrow. So make sure you keep an eye out for those. Today, EU leaders gathered in Brussels to start planning out a common strategy to shore up Europe's defence and to figure out how they'll be able to finance it. The EU needs to invest €500 billion over the coming decades in defence, but member states remain deeply divided over what and where to buy crucial equipment and how they'll spend €500 billion. However, no firm joint conclusions are expected to be penned down by the end of the meeting, which is aimed as a springboard or starting point to get Europe's leaders talking over this deeply divisive issue. In attendance will also be NATO chief Mark Rutte and the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer. €500 billion would be a huge investment in defence across the coming decade, especially when one considers that only €8 billion was earmarked for the sector in the bloc's 2021 to 2027 budget. Figuring out how to ramp up and transform the European defence industry has also become increasingly urgent following President Donald Trump's comments that he wants European NATO members to spend 5% of their GDP on defence, which is more than double the current defence spending target for NATO members, and even more than what the US spends. Some countries have got on board with Trump's 5% suggestion, whilst others remain deeply sceptical. We recently released a full video on this over on our EU channel, so do check that out if you want to find out more. Moving to the US now, where Elon Musk, the Trump-appointed head of the Department for Government Efficiency, or DOGE, has suggested that the US Agency for International Development, or USAID, could soon be closed. Now, the primary purpose of USAID is to deliver civilian foreign aid and development assistance. In the fiscal year 2023, the US disbursed $72 billion of assistance worldwide on everything from women's health in conflict zones to access to clean water, HIV/AIDS treatments, energy security, and anti-corruption work. It provided 42% of all humanitarian aid tracked by the United Nations in 2024. The suggestion that it should be closed came from a live session on X Spaces, where Musk claimed he discussed the closure with the president, who agreed we should shut it down. For his part, Musk claimed that US aid is not an apple with a worm in it. What we have is just a ball of worms. You've got to basically get rid of the whole thing. It's beyond repair. These comments were made after Musk put 2 top security chiefs on leave at US aid after they refused to give classified material to Musk's government inspection teams. They were eventually given access. After this news broke, Musk posted, "US aid is a criminal organization. Time for it to die." After nearly 8 months of negotiations, 5 parties have agreed to form a new Belgian coalition government, which will see Flemish nationalist politician Bart de Wever become Belgium's new prime minister. The so-called Arizona coalition, named because the party's colours align with those of the US state's flag, will feature de Wever's conservative Flemish nationalist New Flemish Alliance, or NVA, the Flemish Christian Democrats, or CD&V, and the left-of-centre Vooruit, while the francophone members of the coalition will be the centre-right reformist movement, or MR, and the centrist Les Engagés. Coalition talks proved to be difficult, with them repeatedly hitting stumbling blocks over budget disputes. Ultimately, the Belgian king told de Wever he had to form a new government by the end of January or face a fresh election. De Wever becoming prime minister is notable for a few reasons. For starters, he previously said he would rather not take a job and would prefer to remain mayor of Antwerp. But more dramatically, de Wever is the first Flemish nationalist to become prime minister of Belgium, a country he once famously said has no future. But while his NVA does seek the independence of Flanders from Belgium, don't expect that to be a mission of this multi-party government. De Wever becoming Prime Minister also strengthens the voice at the EU Council of the European Conservatives and Reformists, or ECR group, which includes leaders like Italy's Giorgia Meloni. He might have only been in office for a few weeks, but Trump has made a big impact already, as we've covered extensively. That's not all we have to say though, because there's a lot of weird and wild things we don't have time to cover in videos, from if Trump's becoming an imperial president, to America's wild history of territorial expansion, to questioning if the US is actually an oligarchy. All of these things could lead you to say, WTF USA, which is, appropriately, also the name of the series I'm literally telling you about right now. WTF USA takes a tongue-in-cheek look at the weirder side of US politics, unpacking what Trump's really up to and why Trump's kind of weird decisions could end up being incredibly impactful. WTF USA is released every other Friday only on Nebula, the streaming service we co-own with a bunch of your favourite creators. Those creators also make a ton of other exclusive Nebula content, including Tom Nichols' new documentary Boomers. In the feature-length documentary, Tom explores the wild truth that old people kind of run the world, unpacking why affordable housing, cheap education, living wages are slipping out of reach for younger generations, as well as questioning the questionable legacy of the baby boomers. It's not just original content either. You can also watch every normal TLDR video on Nebula ad-free, and in some instances before they land on YouTube. If you're not a member already, click our link in the description to get 40% off, which brings the price down to just $36 a year or $3 a month. That's a real steal considering all of the original content on the platform, and the fact that signing up using our link directly funds the channel and allows us to make more content going forward. So thanks for your support, and please do join us over on Nebula.